Hey guys, so I know it has been quite a while, but I wanted to get back on here because it is WrestleMania season. We got to see night one last night. Um, just want to start with this. That overall, I thought that this was a great show. I really did. There were definitely some matches that were better than others, but absolutely all of them, I think, delivered in their intended purpose. So let's go through some of them and also just kind of where I think they go from here, um, as well as I think what the purpose was for having this particular match. So the first one that we got to see was the United States Championship match. John Cena challenging Austin Theory. Here's the thing. I don't know that there was any way John Cena was actually winning this. Okay? Not that I don't think that he didn't have the talent to do it, because clearly he would have. However, the purpose behind this was to elevate Austin Theory, which it did. Now, technically, because of the ref being down and not seeing Theory tap, should John have won? Yes. But I think that adds to the heat on Theory. And honestly, he's kind of growing on me. Not in a babyface way. I still absolutely don't like the guy because, well, I'm not supposed to. He's supposed to be a heel, right? So he's really getting more of that through there, and I feel like he's becoming more confident in who he is and who his character is, and he's becoming more confident in connecting with the crowd, with the audience. I feel like he has also been one of those characters, though, that is okay with being booed and okay with not necessarily being cheered and liked, which is good for him. It absolutely is. Um, it was a hard fought match, and yeah, it ended up with him having to resort to a low blow behind the official's back. But I think that again added to that, getting that heat on him and keeping it there. I was I was okay with that. I thought they both showed what they could do. We then had the Fatal 4-Way men's showcase match for the tag teams. And we did find out that this was going to be to um, decide who would be the number one contenders to whoever won in the main event. We had Braun Strowman and Ricochet taking on Street Profits, the Alpha Academy, and the Viking Raiders. All of these are great teams. One thing in particular I want to touch on, I like what they've done with the Viking Raiders by adding Valkyrie. I love what they're doing with her. I think this was absolutely the way to go, to have them go heel. Each of these teams definitely had their spots in this match. It wasn't a super long match, and I don't know that it was intended to be, but it definitely showcased the power of all 8 of these men, okay? That Tower of Doom spot was, it was a nice touch. I liked that. I did. So the Street Profits walk out of that as the number one contenders, which I like. I like that they are going to be the next in line for a title opportunity. Having said that, eventually they will eventually split them, and they will eventually do their own separate solo things, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. We then switch to a non-title match. We have Seth Rollins taking on Logan Paul. I loved the Prime model. Eventually being found out to be KSI. That was, I think, a good touch there, and I think it's going to bring in a different audience, which is nice. Having Logan hit the splash on top of him on the announce table was very nice touch. Again, both of these men really showcased what they're capable of, and I have to say, while I wasn't necessarily super familiar with who Logan Paul was prior to him coming in to work certain spots here in WWE, he has certainly shown that he kind of has a knowledge of what is expected, and he is more than willing to put in the work. And I think these guys both did a very good job of putting in the work in this match. Rollins ended up picking up the victory, which I thought was a nice touch. Logan Paul is going to be just fine, even if he continues to do spots here in the WWE. He's going to do fine. We then had the 6-woman tag match. Becky, Lita, and Trish taking on Bayley, Dakota, and Io Sky. Damage Control. I loved the entrances here. I enjoyed Damage Control's entrance, but I really liked the way that they made Becky, Trish, and Lita's entrance really special with the whole black and white effect. It was very neat. It also touched on the way that Trish and Lita not only played a part in Becky's career and her looking up to Trish and Lita, but also Bayley, and to some extent probably even Dakota and Io, looking up to them. I feel like they all had their really good spots. I know a lot will say that some of it was kind of slower, but I feel like it was okay. Was it absolutely the best? Maybe not, but I think all of these women put on a good show. I wasn't expecting the outcome, honestly, and I think Damage Control is still going to be just fine. But I really did think Damage Control was going to pick up the win. And I was kind of expecting maybe something from Trish. I know that has been thrown out there. This is where some of the rumors come in here, is that there's been talk of Trish and Becky maybe working something at SummerSlam. So we'll see. I kind of had expected something maybe during the match, after the match. I was expecting more after, but that did not end up happening, and that's okay. That's okay. We then had the Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio match. So when this one first started, I was a little disappointed because I had not seen, first of all, Damian Priest come out, or Finn Balor, and I really wasn't sure if Finn would be coming out or not. But what confused me was that they had made the point of restarting the Latin World Order on SmackDown the night before. So I had a feeling that somehow this had to come into play. And it certainly wasn't until later into the match that it did come into play. I liked that they did include a little bit with Rey's family, with Aaliyah and Rey's wife there. I thought that worked out really well. They did eventually bring in this new Latin World Order, which I thought was great. They did have, I also want to point out, Bad Bunny on commentary, which and I guess I wasn't even really thinking about it at first either, but so WrestleMania Backlash is going to be in Puerto Rico. So the thought process is you have Bad Bunny there, first of all, to bring this again more into the mainstream, but also Bad Bunny is similar to Logan Paul in that he is one of those that have come in from outside of necessarily the wrestling industry, but have definitely put in their work, have definitely put in their time, and understand what it's going to take to really make it believable and not necessarily just be more of a gimmick type match. he puts in his work. So I thought it was a nice touch when Dominic went to go get, even at the time I thought that his whole thing with the taking off the protector for the ring post was exactly that. It was more distraction for the official. What he really intended was to get whatever was in that jacket, which ended up being a chain, right? I thought it was a very nice touch that Bad Bunny grabbed it from him before he could actually use it. And this is going to set up that future. This is that long-term kind of storyline planning. So they're setting up some of that to flow into WrestleMania Backlash is my guess. We'll find out more this coming week as we get into Raw and SmackDown, whether they bring Bad Bunny in again to start to continue to set that up or not. And that may not be where they're going with this, but I'm guessing that they are. So they did end up going with Rey Mysterio picking up the victory, which I think was a nice touch. I don't know if this is done between Rey and Dominic. It might not be. We will continue to see there. We did get the Latin World Order coming out, and they did end up helping with those number games when Finn and Priest showed up. So that helps. So the other thing I want to talk, I don't know if this, I haven't seen anything said about this necessarily on social media, but Rey took off his belt and he essentially gave Dominic a good whooping. I don't know how that's going to play out for WWE, if there's going to be any backlash on them about that, but I kind of thought it was a nice touch as this was a father-son type thing. I found it entertaining, I guess you could say. We then have the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Rhea Ripley winning the Women's Royal Rumble, taking on Charlotte Flair. I really felt like this should close out the show for that reason. And that's not on these women necessarily. That, I think, is partly on WWE and not giving them that storyline, not giving them that build. To some extent, are they maybe supposed to do some of that themselves? Sure. Were there certain things that they could have pitched to creative to bring more of that storyline out, to make people care a little bit more? Sure. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, that was not the biggest story that they were trying to tell at the moment. And you can't always get around that. Sometimes there's just a story that means more, and right now, that Tag Team Championship story was the main story, was what everything was kind of about at the time. It was that talk. And so I think that's partly why they did not try to fight so much to get more of a story here. They did play into it somewhat with Dominic coming out and trying to talk to Charlotte about, Rhea having a Latin lover and everything like that. Kind of drawing that out. They did give somewhat of an attempt. Not as much as they maybe should have. But at any rate, I digress. Rhea Ripley ends up winning this match. These women put on a fantastic show. They did. They did. There were many great spots. Both of these women put everything they had into this. I did see some comments later on about Charlotte looking like she was smiling and almost crying. They're at ringside. Here's the thing, folks. Yes, try to keep in mind that they need to somewhat stay in character, but at the same time, Charlotte's been in this business forever, right? because of her father. So she's been around the business. She knows how that works. She knows what it takes to get where they want to go, where women one are always in that top spot, right? Which it isn't obviously always going to happen because it's not always going to be the story. But what Charlotte realized, and even I know at the time before I saw her smiling down there, she knew that they had just killed it. They had just proven why they should have been in that spot. They should have been closing out that show. She knew that they were going to have to go out there and pull out all of the stops. They were going to have to tear the ceiling off. And they did. And she knew that they did. And the other thing is she needs to take time off, which I've also heard she might be. She knows that Rhea Ripley, with what the two of them were just able to do out there, that the women's division was going to be just fine if she had to step away. She knew that this next generation was where they needed to be. And that was, I think, one of the biggest reasons why she was smiling. She knew that they just did what they had to go out there and do. They had accomplished that goal. Whether she was still holding that title or not didn't matter. She knew that when it came down to it at the grandest stage of the mall, they killed it. We then had an impromptu match, which, well, not long at all, and wasn't super exciting, but was entertaining. We had The Miz with an impromptu match against Pat McAfee after The Miz said that he had put out an open challenge that no one had accepted. This was entertaining, and it did what it was meant to do. Pat McAfee ended up essentially getting George Kittle involved. He ended up stopping Miz from being able to run away. So again, bringing in that mainstream audience, which is already somewhat being done through Pat McAfee, right? And the thing is Miz can work with pretty much anyone, right? He is the star. So he doesn't need to have those championship matches, right? This fun, entertaining, quick little match is exactly fine for him and exactly what he needed. It got him on the card. It helped to bring in an audience that maybe wouldn't initially really maybe have been excited about potentially watching the show, which is necessary sometimes, right? You gotta have some of those spots. So we then had the closing show, the Undisputed Tag Team Championship match. The Usos taking on the challengers, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Now this one was groundbreaking for many reasons. First, that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have never challenged seriously for the tag team titles or held them, right? But it was also the first time that the tag team titles were being defended as the closing match on the show. I thought the match was very good. There were so many spots where I thought this is it. And they kept going. Kept kicking out. There were very many good spots, and they showcased a lot of what these guys can do. I did see one comment today as I was looking on the internet. It was mentioned how many super kicks Jimmy and Jay used, and that was maybe a little overused. Yeah, maybe a little. There were a lot. I will admit that. And I know that Jimmy and Jay can do a lot more. So I guess that would be the only thing that I would say I did not see enough of during this match is that repertoire that I know Jimmy and Jay do have. And I believe that they do. They did include the 1D, which is a nice touch, and I'm really glad that they have started to include that in their repertoire, and that they did essentially get, not necessarily permission, but they did they have been told that they're glad that that has been passed on. End of the day, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens pick up the victory. The first time ever, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are holding tag team titles together. Amazing. I think that this is going to be a good title reign for them, and I hope that they get to hold on to it for quite some time. Having said that, though, this is another part where I go into kind of what's next, right? Because now, because of the match earlier in the night, you have them having to go up against the Street Profits, who they have a lot in their repertoire as well, and they're very great as a tag team. They understand each other very well, and Sami and Kevin do as well. The issue that you run into somewhat is that now you have two babyface tag teams, and maybe this is where they split the Street Profits, right? They could. It is a potential. I think you want to keep these titles on Sami and Kevin for a while. They are red hot right now. Sami's kind of cooling maybe a little bit, but maybe that's what he needs is this tag team title run. So I don't think you want to take them off right away against the Street Profits. So maybe this is when you split them. And you've seen little pieces of frustration, those little seeds that have been planted from the Street Profits. This may be that time. And I think both of them, I think Montez Ford will be just fine. He will be great. He's going to be a star as a single competitor. He will. And I think they're both going to be just fine, right? As single competitors. Angelo Dawkins, I don't know if he will necessarily be a singles champion. He could. I could see it in the Intercontinental or United States Championship arena, maybe. I don't know about the main event title scene, but that's okay. That's fine. He will be good. So, that is what I have for you. I am about to go down and continue to watch the kickoff show for night 2. Before we do that, though, I don't know what this means for tomorrow night if the Bloodline shows up on Raw now that they have lost their gold. Some of that we'll talk a little bit more about on Monday before I go into work, because we're going to watch WrestleMania Night 2 tonight, and we'll see what happens with Roman. There's a good chance Roman loses his title tonight. Whether we hear from the Bloodline Monday or Friday, it might wait until SmackDown. We will find out more of how this fallout plays out for the Bloodline. Alright, enjoy night 2. I will be back with you tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say. We'll go over night 2 and my takes from tonight. I really hope that this night is as entertaining as last night. Alright, thanks guys.